Okay, how likely is it that the UK calls a general election in 2019? I think it's a certainty. I don't think it's likely. I think it's actually going to happen. And I think it's actually going to happen quicker than people realise. And it could be something that happens very quickly in the Parliament as it currently stands with the discussion we're having over the Brexit debate, with the MPs taking over the debate out of the government's hands. One of the reasons is I got my polling card through the post for the local elections on the 2nd of May, which is just over 5 weeks away as I'm recording this video. Now, why I think election's going to happen. Minority governments don't tend to survive very long. The fact that it's survived 2 years stuns me. The Fixed Parliament Act, there is no way the government is going to be able to survive as a minority for a 5-year term. I think it's 2022. That's not going to happen for another 3 years. There's no way this current government can limp on for 3 more years in minority, because they've already lost 3 MPs from the government party of Conservatives to the independent group. The Labour Party's lost even more to this independent grouping, so the opposition is weakened as well. The only major national party that covers the whole of the UK, apart from the Green Party, which is a minority party, is the Lib Dems, that have a coherent policy when it comes to dealing with the EU, which is to remain. I have no other option. Well, there is no other option for me really to vote for in my local constituencies: Lib Dem, Labour, or Conservative. And yeah, that says it all, really. As I say, there's no way the government can continue on in the minority. The Labour opposition is too divided to even form a minority government of its own, because it wants to also leave the EU, but all the other parties on the opposition benches want to stay, so that's not going to happen, and their minority would be significantly reduced from the Conservative minority, because the DUP could still come back to the table and go, "You will support you on this policy," but that is seeming less likely. Therefore, we're going to get no legislation passed, and the country is just going to stagnate politically and possibly economically, and that's where it gets really big, is the economic consequences of the failure of this parliament. I honestly think an election is necessary. If we have local elections on the 2nd of May, why not call a general election on the 2nd of May? That will then give us some more clarity of where we stand. Now, if there's a hung parliament there, that is not necessarily the end of the world, but it will give us some clarity on what parties have stood on a pro-EU platform, which will be the Lib Dems and the Greens, and the nationalists from Scotland and Wales, obviously, but also what parties will definitely stand on a leaving EU, leave the EU manifesto, which will clearly be Labour and the Conservatives, because they said they would. However, I'm seeing enough division within those parties for remaining in the EU over leaving, that we could see some new parties formed, and we could see those parties possibly lose votes, and that could be crucial. I can see the Lib Dems gaining seats. I can see Labour and Conservatives possibly losing seats, which means, yes, there could be a hung parliament, but then that Remain voice is stronger in the parliament as well. But if there's a majority, it is yet to be seen. But with local elections taking place on the 2nd of May, it makes sense to hold both elections on the same day. And then after then, if you do have a party that can form a government, they can say second referendum, continue with leaving the EU, renegotiate a new deal, revoking Article 50. All those options could then be put back on the table, as long as there is a coherent party that has a majority. And at the moment, there isn't a party that has a majority in Parliament. There isn't a majority of MPs that want to go with a certain thing. So therefore, an election is a clear and obvious option that no one in Westminster seems to be taking up. I think it has to be taken up. It has to be taken seriously. And I think if they don't, then we could be on the precipice of a complete and utter crisis we haven't seen since World War II. But there we go. I think it's a very likely thing to happen. I think it's actually a certainty to happen. It would be a fool not to call one. I think Theresa May's lost all support of her party. Corbyn, his support isn't as great as people realise. Vince Cable said he's going to stand down as leader of the Lib Dems, and that's fine. But at least his party has a coherent strategy and coherent policies. Admittedly, they are more of a small party now than what they were in 2010 and 2005, but they have coherent, a coherent policy and platform to work off. They're the only party that nationwide isn't divided on the issue of Europe, which is clearly dividing Labour and Conservatives. So, yeah, that's where we stand. But I think an election is a certainty within the next couple of months. There can be no way that this current Parliament can drag on for another 3 years, as it currently stands. But that's my view on it. Place your thoughts below. I'll have some more videos for you soon.